Andrew, we were just speaking off air about these unemployment figures, and I think specifically before the election we were given insight into what a large part of that unemployment figure is made up by young people specifically. And I would assume, because you're a digital platform, this is a place where a lot of young people are going just to start their search for a potential job of some kind. Tell us what Jobstarter does.
Okay, so basically when we started working on Jobstarter, we realized that there's a huge elephant-sized problem. So then we thought, let's just find the best way that we can possibly shave this number by a few hundreds. So the three structural constraints that we came across was, one, the high cost of seeking employment. Young people can spend close to between 500 and 900 rands a month looking for work. And secondly, that the lack of social capital that allows them to have access to these opportunities.
What do you mean by that?
Okay, so then let's imagine what a dinner table conversation would look like between, a typical middle-class child and someone else who sits on the outside of that. They have enough social capital in the sense that possibly their parents studied, their parents have worked, and they're able to network in that sense, right? You will see that recruiters, a lot of the time, they use also social media, which in a country where we have huge data issues, not everyone has access to that. But then also what the social capital does is that it gives you some form of mechanism to signal to employers that I'm ready. So now imagine someone living in rural South Africa, how do they even get at the forefront of those opportunities? So what we've done is that we said, let's create a digital platform, one, that has palatable information, because there's tons of information out there.
It can be quite overwhelming, can't it?
It's extremely overwhelming, but also going mobile first through design, because the job seeking requires you to constantly be looking for work and being aware of the work trends and what's happening out there.
And you can't keep going to an internet cafe, firstly, if you don't live near to one, and the cost that's involved there.
Absolutely, absolutely. So then now we've actually been able, through our platform, to cut the cost of job seeking from roughly that 500 to 900 rands to 4.23 cents.
How have you done that? By making your platform simple, so it doesn't take that much data to download it, and making sure that the information is what they need to know just to start off?
Absolutely. So then our three assessments, which is numeracy, introduction to the workplace, and communication, it can take you close to 16 minutes to finish those. And when we calculate it, it comes to a very, very small data figure.
So that's like a workshop that you do online?
We do strictly online. And the interesting thing that we found is that at the core of what we wanted to do is to reach the vulnerable in society, which is women and young people. And we have a 76% of women across the country, and who are not only highly concentrated in Joburg, they also sit in other areas of South Africa. So the information is there, it's available for them, but also it's done in such a palatable manner that once they finish their assessment, then they'll be able to signal employers. And we thought, then what happens after they do their assessment? Then let's create another platform on the same website where then employers can then get signaled to see that here's a candidate who's finished X amount of assessments and this is how they fared. And then we've also put in a geotag so that we can also try, by cutting the cost of seeking employment, to bring opportunities closer to young people.
So it sounds like it's almost a Tinder, but for looking for jobs. That's how you're going about matching people up. They can signal, and if that signal matches somebody that the job employer is looking for, you help them, bring them together.
Absolutely, absolutely. But then this is the Tinder where you actually have to work. Your picture's not enough. so yeah. I mean, and I think the great thing is, the key thing for us was to say, how do we create a scalable and impactful product? And impactful in the type of information that we give. It's up to date. We have a content team that constantly works to make sure what are the trends out there, what are HR practitioners looking for, so that then we can be able to build with the young person in mind.
So just to break it down, if you think of the bog standard job websites that are out there, they'll say title, and a lot of it are titles that people don't understand because titles become bigger and bigger every day.
Absolutely.
And then there's this long list that they describe in flowery language what the job entails, and then it comes down to what your qualifications are and what they're looking for.
Absolutely.
How is Jobstarter different to that?
Okay, so how we have created the system is that one, besides cutting the cost for the recruiter to look, because it's free for the recruiters also, candidates are supposed to then signal their interest in certain jobs. So people, I mean, as practitioners in the youth unemployment space, we know that there are high absconding rates. We have, as recently as a few months ago, have had a huge recruitment from a client, and they required 80 people, and only 4 of them made it through.
Why?
And it was not because they didn't match the criteria, it's because they didn't show up. So then we are also curbing then that waste of resource in a way from a time perspective for someone who will actually show that they have enough agency to look at the job and actually read it. But then also as employers, when you come online, we do encourage you to understand that not everyone has the luxury of the English that everyone has. So then the language that's used when they're posting opportunities there are really something that they can relate to.
Now, obviously, you're also sitting on a treasure trove of data, information that you've been able to glean from the work that you're doing. You spoke about youth, people who are vulnerable, the youth and women. You've seen a big uptake in those users on your website. What are some of the trends that you're picking up in terms of those who are looking for work on a site such as yours? What are they looking for? Are they people that are educated, or is it people looking just for basic entry-level jobs?
So at the core of what we're looking for the basic entry-level jobs. So, I mean, with the stats that came out, a large part of the population, young people between the ages of 15 and 24, they sit in the NEET category. That is, those who are not in employment, in education, or in training. And so those are the bulk of people who are looking really just for an opportunity or to sit at the forefront of opportunities. So then we were quite deliberate in the sense that we want to then find these low-hanging fruits where entry-level people can enter the workforce, because once you start getting a job, it actually does something to your own human dignity. And a large part, I mean, I know we all know that, but human dignity, a lot of it is tied to being able to put food on the table.
Absolutely.
So then we were quite deliberate in creating an intervention that's going to support and help those. And I think especially in the tech space, when you're designing, a lot of the time, we realize that young people are not a homogenous group.
No.
And we need to find the right interventions for the right people. That's why I'm very encouraged, even when the president announced the Yes campaign, there's different and many of us practitioners out there working to try and shave this elephant-sized problem, even if it's by a few hundred. So I think there's different interventions for different people, and we were quite deliberate in capturing those who are really the vulnerable in society.
I suppose they say, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
One bite at a time, absolutely.
Andrew, thank you so much. Such great insight and a very important story. Andrew Clow is the Director of Business Development at Jobstarter. I suppose people can find out more at Jobstarter.
You can send us an email on info@Jobstarter. Otherwise, we're on social media at Jobstarter SA. And yeah, that's us.
The website?
www.jobstarter.co.za.
There you go. Thank you so much for your time.